Hi y'all, this is the Tiffany Thomas channel where I talk to you about God, truth, and love. And today we're going to get into more truth as possible, where I share with you my top 5 things that I really wish I had known in my 20s as I do this look on my head, which is a normal twist out. So you'll get a 2-in-1 combo video, and it was challenging to make, but really fun. So I hope you really enjoy it. So stay tuned because we are going to get into it. Talk to you about what I learned in my 20s. That should be why you clicked on the video, to learn what I learned when I was in my 20s that was like really good and helpful for me. One of the main things I think I learned in my 20s that I reflected on, I was just talking to my family about it. I really reconnected with God. I was an atheist. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not now. But back then, I had a really probably traumatic, I was very religious growing up, like over religious. So I think you should connect to God, just because even if you call yourself not believing in God, the truth of the matter is you don't lose anything by believing in God. For me it was like, is God really real, and how do we know? I think that what got me back into religion was just the fact of realizing, if you don't believe in God and there is a God, to me you're losing a hell of a lot more if God is real. Like, if he's not real and nothing's going to change your life, you're not losing really anything. It's just nothing's gonna happen. But God, if God is real and you decide not to believe in him, you're losing a lot. Because he's the one who really makes the world go round. And I think that's pretty good. I like them to be super curly on the end, so I moisturize and moisturize until I get them as curly as I want them to be. But anyways, okay, back to what I'm saying. If God is real and you actually decide not to believe in him, then you're losing a lot by not believing in him. And so wouldn't it just be better to believe in him? So I think that was the some base practical argument that got me like really back connected to God. I mean, obviously I'm older now, so my relationship with him has grown. But I think that was like my initial, like that was what kind of got me going back to be like, okay, I can do this. So reconnect to God, because once you build up your faith and your thankfulness and have a real understanding of who God is, life starts to fall into place. Like, it starts to make like total sense. Why, how things are, why this world is the way it is. It just makes total sense. And why your life is the way it is makes total sense once you really have faith in God. You know that God always has your best interests at heart. And even in the hardest, most difficult times, you have this great thing with God that is just going to make your life so much better. Like, I'm thankful in my worst times. And to me, that's a true person or Christian who has really a good understanding of who and what God is. Like, be thankful. So anyways, you know, I have such love for God. So number 2 for me, for what I wish I knew in my 20s, is continue to do what you love and follow your heart. I had a set of jobs that was a lot of jobs. You know, I went to college kind of like, I started going to U of M, but I was like clueless about what I wanted to do. And so I couldn't find the passion that I needed to really survive U of M, because I didn't really want to work that hard. So I was like, I'm done after 2 years, and then I went home. So for me, if I had to do it over again, what I think I learned is I would have honed in on something I was passionate about, or went to a not as big school, because at U of M, it's so many students, you're gonna get lost. It's just too much. And you don't have, I didn't have the motivation to do all the requirements they were asking. I didn't have the drive. So for me, if I had to do it over again, I would have just went to like a community college until I figured out exactly what I was like passionate about and loved, and kind of went that way. I mean, it worked out. I ended up getting my degree in accounting, and what I do now is not really accounting, of course, because accounting is not my passion. But I do kind of do stories and performance metrics. And I get to do visual management at my job. So for me, the visual management is a way of telling stories, is what one of my true passions. I love stories. I've always have. I'm a huge reader. I love books. love books. So I would have figured out a little bit more in that angle, and really kind of have, nurtured that a little bit better. So I feel like that was a learning experience in itself. I probably would have nurtured what I love more. So what ended up happening is I had a series of jobs at county and things that I didn't like. So I would kind of job hop like after a year or two and be like, I'm done with this. I need something new. Because I was like, I'm not happy. I'm not enjoying it like that. And so that part is kind of funny, because if I had done probably what I was passionate about, I would have stayed longer, and been more connected to what I was doing, happier and less frustrated. I remember crying a lot about my jobs. I remember hating them a lot, being very bored with them. But I think when you're that young, you don't know how important it is to do your passion, and you kind of are just dying a little bit, going to work every day, kind of hating it, being bored by it. You don't realize that you need to really re-engage your passion. However, my saving grace through all that time was that I did have my writing. So I was writing the novel that I did published. I think I started it like at 25-ish. And I did start re-engaging in that a little by surely, working on writing. But it was like so part-time, 30 minutes a day, that I don't think I really got more serious about it until like I was like 28. And then I was really trying to shape the story. Like, I think up to that point I had wrote like my first 10 chapters of the book I published, but I had, it needed a lot of work. So I think that's lesson number 2 for me. Let's do lesson number 3. In my 20s, what I wish I knew is you're going to be tortured. I mean, tortured. If you haven't seen a lot of great relationships and how it works, you're going to be tortured in your 20s, because you're going to make so many mistakes with boys. I made a ton of mistakes with boys in my 20s. I think I fell in love with 3 guys in my 20s, and it was just kind of like a disaster after one. All of them were kind of a disaster. I don't think I'm friends with any of the people I were in love with. well, I'm not friends with any of the people I was actually in love with in my 20s. I feel like I hurt people, but I didn't like mean to hurt them, which is somewhat sad. But you know, that is what happens. When you are in your 20s, you hurt people and you don't realize that you hurt them. Like a lot of them, I didn't realize that they could have been taken as rejection. They could have taken what I did as me not respecting them. I didn't know that stuff. And you know, I was looking at it from my view and probably from my pain and not really like seeing their pain, which now of course I made amends. I can see their side, and I feel sorry that that's how it all happened. But I'm also grateful that it happened that way, because I learned, and this is where my faith with God is like really strong, because even though I'm not friends with them, I learned a lot, and I'm thankful for each experience because they were really beautiful. Like my first love was just like this, I'm on cloud 9, the world is perfect when I'm in their area love, and that was nice. Second love was like more complicated, and it wasn't as like mushy, and I really didn't like a lot about him. I'm not gonna lie. So it was like a surfacey love. I don't really think we had a lot at heart in common, but it kind of was like what I was doing. It wasn't a deep, the second love was not a deep love. I'm not gonna lie. I learned more from the first and the third. The third one was like the big one where I was gonna get married and it was all gonna have this perfect life that I really had no idea what that was supposed to do. And I'm so happy it didn't work out because I didn't know myself. So that takes me into my lesson number 4. 4 is get to know yourself in your 20s. I really wish I had really knew myself before I jumped into these relationships. Like, I admire the younger people. I even see some people in their 20s who really honestly know themselves. They know what they love to do. They know what they're passionate about. They know what they like and don't like, what works for them. They know a lot more than I did at that age. They know their emotions. Like, I was so clueless about emotions in my 20s. Like, you know, it was hard for me to say I'm feeling a lot of pressure. I'm feeling overwhelmed. I'm feeling even sad, or I'm feeling very anxious. Like, I couldn't tell you a lot of that, and because of that, the lack of understanding myself, I couldn't understand others as well. And so relationships, once you understand yourself on a deeper level, having a relationship with someone is so much easier. So know yourself. And let's get into this last one. So my last tip for your 20s is know that you're going to change. And your 20s is about discovering who you are and what you're about. So don't, I think, enter into something so permanent that you'll regret it later. Like, I per se probably couldn't have gotten married in my 20s only because I knew myself so little. So, you know, this is the bad thing. Most people think they know themselves, but now that I hit, you know, 30s, like, it's like I didn't know myself at all. Like, not really. Like, to me, you really, really know yourself when you know all the little details about you that make you work and really help in what really, like, in a day works for you. When your day is pretty seamless and you don't have, you know, a lot of days where you're angry and upset and in a week, or depressed, because I had days in my 20s where I was just depressed and clueless. You know, when you're kind of in those moods, you don't know yourself enough probably to make a big life decision. Those are kind of just letting you know you need to work on yourself a little bit more, understand yourself a little bit more, so you can really, you know, kind of have your life thing. And I think I wish I had known that a little bit more, because I was thinking, oh, well, by 30, it all needs to be together. You know, you have to have all these, you know, these things, and everything has to be in place. And that is like such BS. You put yourself under so much stress, so much pressure, so much unrealistic expectations that just they're not viable. Like, we shouldn't do this to ourselves. And you have this societal construct where they're basically telling you have to get married and you have to have kids. And, you know, I found out in my 30s, like, kids are nice, but it's not my DNA to be like, I need to have kids. Like, it's not the most important life goal for me. Neither is getting married, because those are things out of your control. And those to me are God divine things that, you know, to me, you need to be really ready. You are making a big commitment. And I would never want to be married and get divorced. So I think once you get married, don't know yourself, and don't know how to handle a lot of conflict, you're setting yourself up to do those things. And so I feel for a lot of people who got married in their 20s and divorced, or made big life decisions that they later would say they regret. I feel like I almost got married and then I was like, oh, I'm not ready for this. And I'm so happy now that I backed out, even though it was kind of like a long trying to understand everything journey. So happy how it worked out and where I'm at, and I'm here with you. In my 20s, I still had enough uncomfortability with being who I really was. And, you know, that is really to be where I'm at right now, because I'm really, really me. I have no problem showing the real me. And if you get through life, that is it, honey. You know, I can wake up and go to my job and I get to be me. They know how I'm pretty much gonna come. I don't really sugarcoat anything at work. I'm not that fake. I don't have it in me. So they just had to learn how to deal with the real me. And I went through bumps and a little bit bruising in the journey to find the real me. But it's well worth it, because I don't feel like I'm ever lying about who I am. I don't feel like I'm stuffing parts of myself down. And, you know, even if it makes my family uncomfortable, I'm gonna say what I feel, and I'm gonna address the things that I think are problems. And, you know, you either can deal with me as I really am, or I feel like at this point in my life, or you cannot at all. And I welcome that. I welcome not having the friends. I welcome not having even family support me in my decisions if what I'm doing is true to me, because, you know, the only person that it all matters to and that I have to feel like I'm correct with is God. And for me, that's very a personal thing. You know, all to each his own, right? So hair is finally done. My camera's literally gonna die because I took so long to do this. Okay, but it's done. I'm gonna put on my scarf. I'm gonna go to bed. Love you all. Thank you for listening. If you want, subscribe, comment. I'm always eager to connect with you, and I love you. Bye.